Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. Hello, everyone, and welcome to What Fresh Hell Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Margaret.
And this is Amy. And today we have 2 guests. We're speaking to Natalie Mayslich and Blessing Adesiyan. Natalie Mayslich is the president of consumer for Care.com, where she's responsible for expanding, building, and delivering the company's portfolio of childcare and senior care products and services. Blessing Adesiyan is the founder of Mother Honestly, a platform that provides financial technology and work-life infrastructure to employers and is reshaping the future of women and families at home and in the workplace. Natalie and Blessing are here to talk to us today about a new joint research study between Care.com and Mother Honestly that assesses how remote work truly impacts working families at work and at home. The findings of that study have just been published as the Modern Workplace Report. Welcome, Natalie and Blessing.
Thank you, Amy and Margaret. We're so excited to be here today.
So tell us, why did Mother Honestly and Care.com team up to field this survey in the first place?
I'd say that both of our companies, Care and Mother Honestly, understand that without care, working families can't work. And we're both incredibly strong advocates for solutions that make women's careers and their lives manageable. And so much of the conversation, or the national conversation, has been consumed with the future of work. What does it look like? But we didn't have the data to understand how remote work was impacting employees caring for their children and for seniors. And as we think about what happened over the course of the pandemic, they were the ones who were impacted the most. Millions of women left the workforce, and we wanted the data in order to support and understand, does remote work work? Does it make for more productive employees? Does it make for more fulfilled caregivers? And does it make for happier people overall?
So Amy and I both experienced this as remote workers during the pandemic ourselves. We were remote workers before the pandemic, and then we continue to be remote workers and teachers and principals and sports directors and added, 9 other hats.
Nurse practitioners, all of these things. Blessing,
was this strictly a response to the pandemic, this work and these surveys, or is this something that you saw women starting to deal with before the pandemic began?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we were already complaining. Mothers were already saying, this is too much. This is unsustainable, right? Before the pandemic even hit. I remember at the time I was working in a Fortune 100 company in corporate America. I had already told my husband, look, I'm going to have to quit. This is not going to work. He had a 4-hour commute. I had a 2-hour commute. He had 3 young kids. I was breastfeeding and pumping. It was a lot, right? And so we knew that something had to change. And then, unfortunately, the pandemic happened, and then we all saw just how horrible it has been for caregivers, because a lot of caregivers had to immediately wear multiple hats. They were already wearing multiple hats, but literally we were wearing it all at the same time. During the pandemic, as you all have said, whether it's being a nurse or a chaperone or a cook, cleaner, everything, right? And
we forgot cook. That's a good one. We had forgotten cook.
Man,
lunch lady, angry lunch lady. We were doing it all.
I was cooking around the clock. It was a mini restaurant assembly line.
I forgot about that part. I think I blocked it out.
Churning out burgers and pancakes every minute. But, that was what it was, right? We all were going through this world where everything was thrown at us from multiple angles. And when we said, let's come together and really think about how has the modern workplace evolved, right? How has working families, how have we evolved before the pandemic, through the pandemic, and in this post-pandemic reality? And I think as we we keep talking about the future of work, but what we're saying is, look, the future of work is here, right? Like we already are living in it. And so how do we redesign a workplace that works for everyone? And this report answers that question.
Employers before the pandemic, research shows that they were pretty clueless about the demands of people who work from home, caregivers in particular, which is who this report is really for, caregivers like all of us, didn't get it. And then the pandemic happened. There was a huge silver lining, as this report points out, that if it was impossible, at least it was also visible for the first time. Natalie, can you tell us sort of how that played out in the report?
Great point. Whereas prior to the pandemic, employers maybe turned a blind eye. I would say it's not like they didn't know, because everyone's dealing with their own care infrastructure, own care issues at home, but essentially turned a blind eye to their employees' needs. During the pandemic, they couldn't, right? They were visually seeing the pets popping up in the Zoom and the children popping up in the Zoom. We were all caregivers, and we were bringing our whole self, including our caregiver self, to work every day. And so, whereas in the past, there was some level of plausible deniability, employers didn't have the luxury of having that anymore. And they needed, and if they wanted to maintain a productive workforce, they needed to help solve for their employees' whole selves moving forward. And so as we sort of look at the report and what we set out to learn, one of our biggest takeaways was that both employers and employees agree that remote work is working. For employers, pre-pandemic, their biggest concern was employee productivity. And what we've proven through remote work and our report and the findings, and even outside our report, is that productivity holds. And in fact, not only does productivity hold, in some instances, employees are working more, but being happier while doing it because they have the flexibility to choose when, how, where they show up. That is pretty groundbreaking and life-changing result. We're living in a revolution, and the revolution of remote work has already happened.
And I think that issue of flexibility is really key to what we're talking about. I know two women, both of whom worked for major corporations, which I will not name, although I am extremely tempted to, who, when the pandemic began, said to their employers, I now need to be with my kids from 10 to noon and from 1 to 3 because I am their default school teacher now as well. And both of them were fired by their companies. And they said, no, you can't do that. We don't have that flexibility. We're serious corporate, whatever job they thought was so important that they couldn't spare them for these 5 hours. Blessing, is that something that you see in the report, that lack of flexibility? And is that something that's just running up against the realities of what's actually going on? I will say both of these people, it was early in the pandemic, and I don't know if those corporations ended up losing a tremendous amount of staff, or if other people just felt like, I can't lose my job at a time like this, so I guess my kids will just have to figure out school on their own while I keep pretending that I work at this corporate office that has no distraction.
Absolutely. So, I think a lot of us, maybe my husband calls it selective hearing. I feel like we all forgot what happened in those early days of the pandemic when employers really had no clue what was going on. Mm-hmm. And so they were all worried that productivity was going to go out of the window. People were not going to show up and do their job to the best of their abilities because they were tendering to kids and so many other things. So employers were really pushing for you to literally be butts in seats, right? Like show that your Slack is green and Jabber and whatever, Microsoft Teams, everything look, you're green at all times.
Big Brother is watching you, basically.
Exactly. There were multiple studies that showed that, people were walking around the clock. Our study basically looked at, one, do people want flexibility? Do people want to continue to work remotely? Most knowledge workers went remote. And so is that trend going to continue? And what we found is that both managers And employees agree that this remote work, this flexibility needs to continue. 58% want that flexibility on their hours. 49% want more time with their family before and after work. So they're saying, you know what, we really want to continue this, right? Because it makes us happy, it makes our kids happy, and we want to see this continue. So that flexibility is key going forward. But I think what is even more special about this report is that productivity also actually went up, right? So people are working longer hours because at least they have that flexibility to work from home. And so, what we said was, look, remote work works. It's here to stay. It's time for employers to lean into remote work, especially for caregivers, who represent 73% of the workforce.
I want to talk about some of the surprising findings from this report. We're talking to Natalie Mayslich and Blessing Adesiyan, and we will be right back.
Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH.
You know that thing where you get an amazing pair of shoes at a really great price and want to tell everyone about it? Yeah, so do we. Here at Designer Shoe Warehouse, we'll give you something to brag about, like the latest styles from brands you love, or the trends everyone's obsessing over, or shoes that make you feel like, well, you. So go ahead, show off a little. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today. DSW. Let us surprise you.
Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand. And it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women, tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING. So there were a lot of surprising findings in this study. One that really surprised me, and I think the authors of the study as well, we're about to find out, is that the managers agreed that remote work works. I feel like every week I'm seeing some story like, get these employees back in seats and they don't want to. And these darn employees want their cushy suburban backyard lives and they don't want to come back. And what are we supposed to do? It's set up as like managers against employees. And the managers are like, we got to stop this madness. That's not what the report says at all. Natalie, can you tell us a little bit about those findings?
Sure. So you're right. It was incredibly surprising to read that managers and employees agreed because of, or in spite of, all of the headlines that we're seeing that are like, get everybody back to work.
Yeah.
As we think about those headlines, there is what does the employer truly believe? And then there's also the reality of there's millions of square feet of commercial real estate that are not being filled. And so they need to justify some of that office space. But as you think about why managers agree that remote work is working and why it's so eye-opening, I think going into the pandemic, the biggest conversation was around workforce productivity. Is my workforce showing up? And the answer is whether they're in office, remote, or hybrid, they do show up. And in fact, what we found through the study is that people are in many cases working more hours when they're working remotely, but they're happier doing it because they have the flexibility to choose when and how they're showing up. And so to your point on the two women who early in the pandemic were let go from their jobs because they needed to homeschool their children from 10 to 2, the reality is in a remote world, you could take those 2 hours to homeschool your children, but you better believe that employee is going to be on between the hours of 8 and 10 to make up for it. And so it's much more about ensuring that you are fulfilling on your job obligations and your responsibilities, no matter when you do it. And because we're saving so much time commuting, you have more hours in the day to get your work done, to get your family life done, and to essentially be a stay-at-home mom. You know, the one thing that's really funny to me is pre-pandemic, the conversation for working parents and working moms was working mom versus stay-at-home mom, and it was the mommy wars. I was working from home as a stay-at-home mom, and we're all in it together. And so I think that ability to be productive, to choose your hours, has managers recognizing that makes for happier, better, more productive employees who show up and are excited to be there.
Another thing that I think plays into that the study underscores, it's allowed the parenting balance between spouses to maybe even out a little bit more because the out of house working parent is now at home more of the day. I live in a commuter town, and I do think taking the commute out of people's lives, you know, that's 2 hours where I live in and out of the city. I mean, one going in, one coming out. And I really see the difference of seeing just a different group of people at pickup, at drop off, just being kind of part of the daily lives of their kids.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so glad that I didn't think you took the survey. So I'm glad that, you know, it's playing out, you know, on that end for you as well. So, you know, I like to remind us where we started from. When the pandemic hit, we were all worried, right? And rightfully so. We thought this was going to be it for women. Everybody said, you know, whoa, all the gains, right? All the gender equity gains are now going to be rolled back. It's going to take years, hundreds of years even, to come back to the same level, right? So there were multiple speculations, but we also feared very deeply that this would trap women into taking on even greater share or greater burden at home. But our survey actually suggests that the opposite is happening. Men are taking advantage of this new flexibility, this ability to work from home, and they're channeling that into supporting their households. And what we found was that 73% of men and women said that remote work gave them the flexibility to spend more time with their family. I mean, can you imagine that? And so this is the part that gets me excited, because I truly believe that when we get men to lean more into care, then we can get our workplaces to lean more into care. Right? Yes. Because think about it, you know, we have more Johns that are CEO than women in the C-level, in the C-suite. So we know that if we can get men to just understand the caregiving responsibilities that happen at home, we are going to move the care agenda forward in the workplace as well. So when we see a data like this that proves that men are doing more in the household, they're doing more childcare, they are cleaning, they are cooking, that gives me hope. Okay. And so now the playing field is being leveled, so to say, at home. That was one of the most exciting part of this report.
That was something I wanted to ask you about. I read in the report, 77% of both men and women report that remote work has leveled the playing field for career advancement. And I was very happy to see that. But then my note was like, but is that true? They're pretty sure this has leveled the playing field. Is it too early to see if that optimistic view is playing out, or is it playing out?
Sure. I think, look, it's very early. We are a year out maybe from the pandemic to say that it's leveled the playing field. But here's what we know. Blessing just talked about how the caregiving responsibilities at work are getting a lot more balanced because the out-of-home parent is now able to come in and help out, help make dinner, help with school and the homework. And what we've also heard from employees and for women is because so much of the workplace construct, the boys' club of going out after work, happy hours, that women often can't attend because they have caregiving responsibilities at home. because there's far lesser and fewer between as a result of remote work, the ability to build the connection happens over our Zoom calls. With the social connection and the social fabric happens over Zoom now. Might happen in person, but women have more opportunities to participate than they have in the past. And so is it 77%? Have we seen a step function in the opportunity for women? Probably. But I think the question we all need to ask ourselves is not, is it here to stay? I think we have to assume and demand that it is, but it really is, how do we get that to be 100%? How do we ensure that we have career advancement and equity between men and females moving forward?
That social aspect is really interesting because on the one hand, like moms want to get home to their kids, but I also know a ton of young women who work with a lot of men all day and they don't want to socialize with them. Whatever they're doing is not interesting to them. Maybe you don't feel like doing things that other people are doing because of whatever your starting set point is. And that judging your ability to work based on how you socialize with other people hurts women and minorities. And that is something that I feel like people don't understand. And I don't think I understood it when I was working in the same way. I mean, I've definitely worked at jobs where men were literally like going out to like clubs afterwards that I was not invited to or wanted to participate in. But even in the much more subtle ways of there may be some social separation between us, that bringing it to Zoom is really interesting, that you're judged more on your work during the workday and your contributions versus whether or not grab wings for 3 hours with a bunch of guys you've sat with all day already.
We're talking to Natalie Mayslich and Blessing Adesiyan. And when we come back, I want to hear about the future of remote work and how we're going to get it more right. All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that: taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE. My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com.
So the Modern Workplace Report ends by saying we have to get remote right. Let's start by talking about what remote not right looks like.
Remote work not right is not policing your employees, right? I think that's the biggest trend that we have seen picked up. Since we all went back in March 2020, we've seen more of that monitoring of employees and trying to understand who is working and who's not. And there's a lot of surveillance happening, who has clocked in and who has clocked out. And I think, that to me is not how to do remote work, right? Because one of the biggest indicator of employee productivity is trust, right? When your employees trust you and they feel safe, then they can do their best work and live their best life. But when they feel like they are being policed and they are just a number, then you run into issues.
I mean, obviously, Twitter's been in the news for this, right? Everybody has to come back. And there's this idea, this default thing that Amy was talking about, that's in the news and stuff, that everybody just wants to sit home in their PJs and they're really watching Real Housewives. But there's a ton of ways to tell if people are working, even if they're not green buttoned, as you say. And let's talk a little bit about the workplace creep. I mean, is this something that you've seen too, that I think there was a lot of fear that remote work would mean that you're always on, that you don't get any downtime as an employee? Is that something you've found with people? The idea that like it's harder because the day never ends?
We hear that a lot. We hear it a lot from our employer partners. And frankly, we hear it from our employees. Here's the thing, though, in conversations that I have with our employees and also with employers, it's on the employer to have the construct on here's what we need and set the metrics. It's on the employee to be intentional about their time. And so as long as you're getting things done, and now that you have the flexibility, you still need to be incredibly intentional around, I'm going to have dinner from 5 to 7 with my family because that's what's important to me. And I'm going to ensure that my work day ends at 5. I have my dinner from 5 till 7. And if I need to, I would log back on. What we are seeing, and we've seen in this report, is there is an extended workday for employees. That extended workday is coming because they are now not commuting. They are choosing the hours when they want to work, and they are happier for it. And so, it's not on us to say, don't do the work if you want to, but it is on the employer to understand and put in metrics of success for their employees and for the employees to ensure that they are holding themselves accountable for their time as well. I think, you asked the question about how not to do remote work. I think as employers, we all need to be really thoughtful around the metrics of success that we put in front of our employees, and also really thoughtful around how we ensure that we are creating frameworks that allow for equity, whether that's gender, whether it's race, or by the way, whether it's proximity, right? The issue with a remote workforce or a hybrid workforce is proximity bias could still exist unless an employer comes in and says, we won't allow for that, and here's how.
So you have to actively push back against that.
Absolutely.
What I've been getting out of this whole conversation is that remote and flexible are not synonymous, and that remote work without flexibility is full of problems, both for the person trying to do it, but also in terms of the productivity you're going to have. That flexibility is an additional part of it that cannot be taken for granted and has to be put in place by employers who want their employees to be more productive.
100%. They go hand in hand, and you can't have one work well without the other.
And let's talk a little bit, Blessing, I'm curious about how you studied different kinds of workplaces. Is this conversation about people who are working flexibly only for a Fortune 500 company, or do you see these benefits across all sorts of different workplaces?
Like Natalie had said, there's a mixture, right? It will work for some and it won't work for others. We know for sure that remote work will work for knowledge workers, and that there are ways to also bring in remote and flexible work, even for individuals or employees that have to be on ground. Things like job sharing, right? There are so many different tools that, thanks to technology, we can now utilize to provide flexibility and even remote work to employees like the doctors, service workers that need to be on there, because they also need that flexibility. And flexibility, like Amy said, could mean different things. It could be flexibility, so that you can leave work at any time, even if you work in person in the office, or flexibility on deadlines, or, flexibility on where you work and when you work. It's going to be imperative for employers, for managers to really understand, there's no one size fit all solution. That was one thing that we found as well. There's no one size fit all solution. So you need to understand what your employees actually need to thrive. One of the biggest things that we found way back is that a lot of companies have no idea, right? You just have no idea what your employees are going through and, how you can make life better for them. And so an opportunity in understanding that, whoa, looking at this report, we know that remote work works, but we need to find out more about what actually works for our employees. So whether that is an employee-wide survey that, employers can conduct to really understand where is the flexibility required? Where can we plug in that flexibility so that we can get the most out of our employees? And they can also reap the benefits of remote work and the benefits of flexible work. So I think that's where we need to go as a country or as an institution, is understanding the real needs of employees. Let's do the work and really understand where is that flexibility really going to matter the most for your employees.
When I was engaged to my husband, he was working 60 hours a week. And the story was, if he didn't go in one day, the whole company would fold. That was absolutely necessary, though, for him. And we were involved in an accident and he was badly injured. He's fine now. And he had to take 4 months off of work and then he had to work from home. Guess what didn't happen? Everything did not fall apart. And I feel like the pandemic has offered that opportunity to all of us. What does it look like if you can't go in? It seems like the survey and having these kind of conversations forces that conversation for a big group of people.
Absolutely. We're super excited about the robustness of the report and what that means for not just caregivers, but for everyone. The report goes beyond just caregivers, but every single employee that requires that flexibility, whether it's to deal with a personal matter or a pet or an extended family. It doesn't even matter. The reality is everything is intertwined. Our works and our life are intertwined. And so how do we meet employees where they're at and provide them with opportunities to live their best working lives?
We're going to put a link in the show notes to the Modern Workplace Report so everybody can read it. It's very easy to read. And I loved how full of not only concrete takeaways, but optimistic takeaways this was. It was a delightful surprise. Like, this is working really well for lots of people. Let's make it work even better for even more people. So, Blessing, tell us about Mother Honestly.
Mother Honestly, we started in 2018. I think I got bored of creating employee resource groups at work. And I decided to create something similar externally. And so now we reach about 1 million employee caregivers in the US. We provide guides, resources, articles, podcasts. Recently, we launched our tech platform to simplify employee benefits for the modern workforce. And that's what we do. And we're super, super excited about our partnership with care.com because a lot of our moms were going through it. The childcare crisis forced women out of the workforce. And so it's really a breath of fresh air to see the solutions, right? The sustainable solutions that care.com provides so that our moms can return to work with confidence and resilience. And I think that's what made this partnership really exciting for us at Mother Honestly.
Natalie, tell us a little bit about care.com.
So care.com is a platform to help families find care. We help families find care across the gamut of care needs: child care, senior care, pet care, even home health. And we also help caregivers find work. So it's a two-sided marketplace where families can come get the best caregivers and caregivers can come and find great jobs that really fit their needs. We're incredibly motivated by both working families and stay-at-home moms and how they make it work and helping them to make it work across our consumer and employer solutions. And we're really excited that as a result of the pandemic has been this shining light on childcare and the care crisis within this country. So much so that we just launched a new podcast called Why Care with Reshma Sujani and our CEO, Tim Allen, to explore more about how we fix the mess, the childcare mess, and care infrastructure mess that this country is in. And so, through partnerships like this with Mother Honestly, through more transparent conversation, we're hoping, and by the way, through the shining light that this report has provided, we're hoping that we can really step function growth and opportunity for women and working families across the U.S.
Love that. We're hoping right along with you.
Yeah. Natalie Mayslich, Blessing Adesiyan, thank you both for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Great talking to you.